Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Lara Clough. We're honoured to acknowledge Councillor Rick Furman, Mayor of the Temora Shire Council, and the Baldry family. We warmly welcome Brigadier Jonathan Beasley, Commander Joint Centre Improvised Threat Task Force, and Colonel Per Olofsson, Swedish Armed Forces Headquarters, and the accompanying delegation. We also welcome the Royal Australian Air Force Warrant Officers Residential Course 0102 from RAF Base Wagga. And as usual, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Bondi Public School, and from Victoria, Mary McKillop Primary School, Narrawarren North. I invite you now to all please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private William Edward Heckendorf. William Heckendorf was born in 1886 in Wodonga, Victoria, to Louisa and Frederick Heckendorf. His father was born in Germany, and his mother was a first-generation Australian, the child of German immigrants. William was the third of 5 children born to his parents before his father passed away in 1889, when William was only 3. His mother later remarried and had another 4 children. William Heckendorf was educated at Hewen State School and later worked as a labourer. At the time of his enlistment in the Australian Imperial Force, he was living in Cumby-Chance, an area to the southeast of Walgett in northern New South Wales. Heckendorf signed up to join the Australian military on the 13th of April 1916. After passing his medical examinations, he travelled to Armidale for formal enlistment. 4 months after training, he sailed from Sydney aboard the transport ship Ankai Seas with reinforcements of the 33rd Australian Infantry Battalion to the war on the Western Front. Heckendorf arrived in England in mid-October 1916 and continued his training at the Larkhill camp on the Salisbury Plain. During this, he joined the 33rd Battalion, which formed part of the 9th Brigade of the 3rd Australian Division. He sailed for France on the 21st of November and joined his unit for the first time in the trenches on the 29th, in time for their incredibly cold and wet winters of 1916 and 17. Heckendorf and the 33rd Battalion served in a section of the trenches near Armentières in southern France. This was a relatively quiet sector of the trenches, known as the nursery sector, where new Australian units were placed to gain experience in trench warfare conditions. While in the trenches, Heckendorf experienced the day-to-day hardships and terrors of war. His unit came under intermittent enemy artillery, mortar and machine gun fire, and faced the extreme cold and wet. During this period, troops of the 33rd Battalion took part in a series of intelligence patrols into no man's land to discover enemy positions and disrupt enemy defences. This was dangerous work. Even though these patrols often occurred at night, the Germans would often use flares to light up the battlefield and expose Australian parties. On the 18th of December 1916, Heckendorf was killed by gunshot wounds to the head, and it is likely that he sustained these injuries while on one of these dangerous intelligence patrols. He was 31 years old and had only been at the front for 20 days. He is buried in Sainte-Bongine Military Cemetery near Armentières in France, where over 2,600 casualties of the First World War now lie. His grieving mother left the inscription on his grave, "The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember William Edward Heckendorf, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in hope of a better world.
I invite you all now to please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.